We rescued Spoingus and Bingus from a pretty rough situation. As soon as we got them home, we made them an appointment for neuters and rabies shots. With their health status being a bit of a mystery, we've been keeping them in isolation. I usually prep cages the night before any appointments to avoid having to rush around when I get up. I label the cages with all their info so there's no confusion when they get to the vet, especially considering how similar they look. If you use repositionable vinyl, it's really easy to peel off the stickers without leaving any residue behind. The appointment day came, so we loaded them up and headed out bright and early to the animal hospital to drop them off for their surgeries. Unfortunately, we got a call from the vet a few hours later with some less than ideal news. During their time outside, it seems Spoingus has picked up some ringworm. Somehow, Bingus managed to avoid it, but we're gonna treat them both since they were out there together and they've been living in isolation with each other this whole time. Spoingus has a pretty serious case of pneumonia and they both have ear infections, so it may be that his immune system just couldn't keep up with everything. They both got a full exam at $50 each. They were given Drontal, a broad-spectrum antiparasitic for the intestinal parasites they still had lingering around. And then Spoingus got a CBC. A CBC is a complete blood count. It's to check for things like anemia or elevated white blood cells from the parasites in pneumonia. Since he was sick, we did a leukemia and AIDS test to try to rule that out. He was negative for both. They suggested a chest x-ray, but that was an extra $120, so I had to skip it and go straight to treatment. I would have liked to have run tests on both of them, but I was already spending way more than I'd intended to at the moment, so I really had to walk a bit of a financial tightrope with this one. He still had fleas after the Capstar and Revolution I gave them, so he got another one. The medicated shampoo should be more than enough to treat them both, but this mousse is gonna go super fast with how long their hair is. Animax ointment is surprisingly expensive. I'm hoping this one will be enough for both of them because I really don't want to have to buy another tube. This is the first time I've ever gotten Clevomox pills, but it's way cheaper than the liquid, so I'm glad my vets were looking out for me there. I walked in planning on spending $120 on 2 neuters and shots and walked out $400 deep in vet care and still no neuters or shots. The camera really didn't want to focus in on these bottles for me, but I didn't have enough hands to do it manually. We have to bathe them 2 to 3 times a week with this Malacat antifungal shampoo. I've never had to do this before, so I'm really not looking forward to it. On the days we don't bathe them, we just use this special mousse on them. I ended up running out and buying more within like a week. I found out that you can buy it with the matching shampoo for like $50, so that's what I'm gonna do when I run out again. The Animax ointment is for their ear infections. They have to have it twice a day for 2 weeks. It's a combination of antibiotic, antifungal, and steroid medication, so if this doesn't do the trick, I'm not sure what they would use next. Cats don't typically appreciate having their ears messed with, so I'm a little nervous. Luckily, they're little sweeties, so I think they'll let me do it without taking their pound of flesh for it. I was surprised at how runny the consistency of this was. It's basically a thick eardrop, so it comes out really easily. Too easily if you're not careful. This tube is easy to puncture and reassemble, and I really like the nozzle it has. It makes it really easy to deposit the ointment in a precise location. Animax is also used to treat skin infections and anal gland issues. We love a good multi-use product over here. You do need a prescription to get it though. One of these days I need to tally up all the money we've spent on Clevomox over the years. I'm pretty sure we could single-handedly keep them in business. The Clevomox is an antibiotic for the pneumonia that he has to have twice a day for 2 weeks. They're a 62.5 milligram pill, so that's the equivalent to a milliliter of the liquid solution that we normally get per dose. We got 28 doses for about $50, as opposed to the bottle of liquid suspension being equivalent to 15 of those doses for $40. They're chewable, so they're probably flavored, and they break down really easily, so it's not a problem to take a few extra minutes to crush them up with how much money it's saving me. I hide the liquid antibiotics in churros, so I would have already had to pay for the churros anyway. Obviously, I'm doing a demonstration, but remember to always fully cover the top of the dish with your hands so the bits don't go flying out. It's super important that they eat all of it, so keep other pets away, and if you have to, you can scrape the sides of the dish with your finger and offer anything left over to them like that. Spoingus wasn't even leaving the essence of a churro behind. Unless it's something that can't be given with food, this is my go-to method for administering medication. I think the last time I wore these scrubs on camera was last year when I was delivering Squiggy's kittens. They're easy to sterilize and move around in, so I've decided to dedicate them to the mission. I always wear separate clothes when cleaning and wash them immediately afterward to contain any contaminants that I've been misted with. I'm not actually sure how important it is to wear gloves if you're washing your hands properly, but I figure extra precautions never hurt. Plus, Echo seemed to have a fun time robbing the glove box with me. We've been fostering Echo for the Humane Society for the last few months now. She's getting so big, I think they said she's the biggest of all her siblings. The last I heard, her other litter mates are all still testing negative for FIV, so I think they're going to be in the clear. I'm really happy for them. It's so much easier to find healthy kittens adequate placement. I'm so glad we were able to give her a place to stay though. She's a very bitey kitten, so I worry she might have infected the healthy ones had she stayed with them. From my experience, most kittens go through it at some point, and I honestly have no idea how you train a cat, or I just train her to stop. I hope we can find her a single cat household or somewhere with other FIV positive cats that we don't have to worry about transmission. I have to vacuum everything 2 to 3 times a day for cat litter crumbs and hair. Spores like to stick to things like that, so it's important to keep everything as free of debris as possible. I use Dawn dish soap and magic erasers to scrub virtually all the surfaces in the shelter, and then I go over it all again with clean water. I mop at least once a day, sometimes more if they leave too many paw prints on the floor. I mop everything again with clean water so it doesn't leave a film. It gets really sudsy between the floorboards, so I have to remember to run a paper towel down between them to dry that up or it looks really gross later. Once this is all done, the cats will be caged up and moved out temporarily while I hose everything down and rescue disinfectant and then rinse it all off with more water. Although I do clean the shelter every day, for the sake of transparency, I definitely don't clean it to this extreme every day normally. The new poly walls we installed in the shelter have been really easy to clean. It's difficult to hang, but it's much better for my purposes than drywall. One of these days I'll finish editing the shelter upgrade video and get it uploaded. I've been having a hard time finding enough time in a day to take care of everything and still make content about it. It takes so long to do all this stuff that even making this video, I wasn't able to film it all in one day. Various parts of this video were actually filmed over the course of the last few weeks that we've been dealing with all of this. I wanted to be able to give a full picture of all the things that have to be done in a day, but when you're filming yourself, it takes a lot more time. Not to mention that I'm not that great at it, so I keep ruining footage by being in the way or having stuff out of focus. I also had a catastrophic memory card failure in the middle of editing, so that was devastating. All of this has to be done daily, or at least every other day, so I knew I had plenty of filming opportunities to get it all in there. Then once you get all that done, you still have to find time to edit in between all the chaos. Editing by far takes the longest of any element of content creation for me, but it's also the part that can be done whenever you have a spare few minutes here and there. I've been neglecting social media too. Whenever I'm overwhelmed like this, I start cutting back on anything that isn't 100% necessary to the operation. I try really hard to remember to post every now and then so that nobody gets worried, but if I'm not careful, I'll get sucked into hyperfixating on replying to all the comments. Then before I know it, it's 3 hours later and I don't get anything else done. Self-discipline is so hard. I am going to be so tired of cleaning when this is all said and done. The smell of Dawn dish soap is going to give me ringworm flashbacks. I'm never going to want to see another magic eraser ever again. Luckily, the isolation space is substantially smaller than the shelter, so it doesn't take nearly as long for me to scrub. I repurposed an old bathroom that doesn't have usable plumbing anymore for our isolation space. I've seen a lot of people use extra bathrooms for emergency foster situations too. It's really the perfect kind of room for something like that. They're usually free of upholstery and carpeting that can't be sterilized, and the surfaces are generally meant to get wet and withstand any kind of surface cleaners you can throw at them. I probably should have explained this at the beginning of the video, but ringworm is a fungal infection, not an actual worm. Spores and endospores are actually some of the toughest things on the planet and can withstand even the most obscenely harsh conditions. I put them up there with tardigrades and other extremophiles like that. Although I'm a bit of a mycology nerd, I'm not actually that familiar with dermatophytosis. The only useful thing I know about it is that they're extremely difficult to eradicate, and some varieties of the fungus have spores that fluoresce a bright green color under UV light. Needless to say, I'll be checking over all new intakes of the UV light from now on. Keep in mind that just because a lesion doesn't fluoresce doesn't mean it isn't ringworm. It can be used to confirm the presence of spores but not exclude them, so proceed with the usual amount of caution even if you see nothing. It was too hard to film myself bathing these guys, so I employed the help of an extra set of hands for this project. All these treatments have definitely been stressing these guys out really bad, so they've gotten a bit jumpy lately. Maybe someone else doing it will put them at ease. If I'm not holding them down to put stuff in their ears, I'm soaking them in some scary goo. It's a miracle they even come near me still. The worst part of this process is that they have to sit in the shampoo for 10 minutes before it can be rinsed, and they just shiver and look sad the whole time. The active ingredients in the shampoo are chlorhexidine and ketoconazole. Chlorhexidine is an antibacterial and antifungal agent to keep the skin and fur nice and clean, while ketoconazole is the secondary antifungal in the shampoo. I think I saw acetic acid listed as a degreaser on their website, so basically vinegar for stripping off the oils. If everything goes well and I've gotten all the spores contained or eradicated so they don't get reinfected, it should only be about a week of treatments left at this point. I really wish that I had thought to take pictures or videos of the ringworm spots so I could show their progress, but they've been responding really well to the treatments. His hair is already growing back before the spots are even gone, so that's promising. Bingus still hasn't had any spots pop up, other than a tiny patch of chin acne from his plastic food bowl, so he may just be the luckiest cat around on that front. On the other hand, the poor guy has to get baths every few days, and he doesn't even have anything wrong. He probably feels like he's being punished for his brother having ringworm. The spores can persist in the environment for 18 months if not properly cleaned. I've heard so many nightmare horror stories about people dealing with ringworm reinfection on and off for like a year that I'm just not willing to take any chances. This is exactly why you always have an isolation or quarantine protocol for bringing in mystery cats. This would have been so much worse if they had just been free roaming in Gen Pop with everyone. I'm not sure if I'd ever get it contained. It's really put a big pause on a lot of our work as it is, so I can't afford an extended battle here. We gave each of them a capstar and revolution before their appointment, and then they got another one at the vet, and when we brought them home to bathe them later on, he still had fleas coming out of his fur. I think the medicated shampoo might have taken care of the last few stragglers, though. I haven't seen anything since then. They were probably the cleanest cats in the whole neighborhood at this point. Of course, the first thing they do after a bath is run to the cat box and stomp around. I wish I had a better way to dry their little feet so they wouldn't give themselves cement shoes. I tried the blow dryer, but they hated it, so I just towel dry them and let them shake. I take opportunities like this to remind people, when you abandon a pet, the problem doesn't just go away. Best case scenario, they become someone else's problem. Worst case, they suffer and die out there. We got to these guys in the nick of time. And sadly, the area they came from is overrun with strays who also desperately need help. Strays who will likely never be as lucky as these two were, and it breaks my heart to even think about it too much. Here we have 3 kinds of peroxide. Your standard drugstore variety is 3% hydrogen peroxide solution and contains chemical stabilizers. It's generally used for treating minor wounds, but the stabilizers make it toxic to ingest. Food-grade peroxide is the exact same thing, but without the stabilizers added. Now, the gold standard of peroxide is this rescue disinfectant. They sell a concentrate, but it's like $60 a bottle, so I always end up buying the small ones and paying more in the long run. The active ingredient in this is accelerated hydrogen peroxide. It's mixed with a surfactant to increase its effectiveness at a much lower concentration. It's only 0.5% peroxide, so it's way less harsh on surfaces than something higher would be. It's important to mention regular peroxide will not work the same way. You cannot just dilute it down 6 times to 0.5% and spray it all over everything and expect it to work, or that's what we would all be doing, so don't waste your time. It's expensive, so I really only bust it out for special occasions like this, but I'd use it all the time if I could afford to. I've already gone through a bottle, so another one is on its way. It's extremely important to follow the directions to a T if you're going to use it. You need to thoroughly pre-clean everything before spraying it on, or it may not work properly. Surfaces must remain visibly wet for the entire duration. It's virucidal in 1 minute and fungicidal in 5. Make sure if you use this on things they eat off of, like their food bowls, you scrub it down thoroughly with soap and water afterward. Everything else is sufficient to just rinse with clean water. Peroxide also has mild bleaching properties, so be warned, it may lighten surfaces and fabrics, but it's a small price to pay for all the heavy lifting it does. I try to only use plastic bowls to give out treats in if I can help it. They always cause chin acne for the cats here, so I'll probably pick up some stainless steel bowls to replace these ones with. The last thing they need is more lesions. The vet said they were having some tummy trouble, so they've been getting probiotic powder added to their food to clear that up. I like to layer it in so it's more evenly distributed throughout. If you've ever wondered what a magical girl transformation into a full-blown cat lady looks like, I've got you covered. All it's missing is the catchy theme song. If this video had a budget, I'd have definitely spent it all listening to No Scrubs by TLC. But since we don't, we can just pretend, lest we be stricken by the copyright gods. I'm not sure what kind of ear infection they have, but it was probably from all the ear mites they had. Between cleaning them out and using the Revolution on them, the mites actually went away fairly quickly. Luckily, the ear mites where they came from aren't these super mutant freaks we have. The ear mites in my neighborhood are absolutely ridiculous. I've had completely indoor cats spontaneously infected with them, and Revolution alone won't do it. I have to combine it with daily cleaning and ear drops to clear them out fully, or they just persist indefinitely. On the days you don't bathe them, you have to cover them in this medicated mousse. This mousse does not cover well for me. I'm not sure if it's their coat length or maybe because I'm wearing gloves, but it takes a lot to cover an entire adult cat. I've already had to buy a second bottle and I'm about to need a third. I really like the way it smells though. I have no idea what's in it that I'm picking up on, but it has the same smell as an expensive tanning lotion I had forever ago. I feel bad, I don't think poor Spoingus likes it. This is kind of off topic, but am I the only one who didn't know that scabies is just human mange? Also, side note, Sarcoptic Mange would be such a good grunge band name. If I could get the cats to wear clothes, I would make them all some sick-ass band tees. We're getting some more chlorhexidine in this, along with some ophitrium, a plant extract that's meant to soothe flaky, irritated skin. I recently realized this mousse isn't prescription, and you can get it with the matching shampoo on Amazon, slightly cheaper than I was able to at my vet. It's something I'm gonna have to start keeping on hand with how common skin issues are in general, especially for FIV-positive cats. The shampoo doesn't have the ketoconazole in it like the Malacat does though, so keep that in mind if you plan to use these products. I've also heard really good things about lime sulfur dips and creams, and apparently they don't require a prescription either, so I may invest in a few of those to keep around as well. I wonder what they smell like. I imagine it's probably not very good. Cats with longer hair are more prone to ringworm, as they can't usually keep their fur as clean. As much as I hate to do it, I decided shaving down the excess coat length might help the mousse last longer and penetrate down to the skin better. I'm not confident in my ability to fully sanitize these clippers, so they're getting tossed out immediately after we're done with them. They actually tolerated being shaved so much better than I would have expected. These clippers are old and kinda loud, so they're probably really scary to a cat. I can't imagine the amount of trauma this ordeal has caused them. I feel so awful that they have to go through this after everything they've already been through. I considered having them shaved professionally, but someone mentioned that their cat got ringworm from the groomer not cleaning their clippers properly, so I didn't want to risk that happening to someone else. We could make an entire third cat out of all this extra hair we have laying here. When I finish all the dirty work, I scrub down like I'm about to enter an operating theater. My hands and arms are most at risk for infection, so I spend extra time on them. I've gotten ringworm from playing with stray cats before, and for me it wasn't a big deal, but I'm also not covered in fur, and I wasn't running a shelter for immunocompromised cats at the time. So it really didn't matter as much. Now though, it's like a code red biohazard situation if I spread it around by accident. Keep any laundry that could have been exposed to contamination separate from everything else. If you don't shower between clothing changes, you're likely to contaminate your new set, so it really shouldn't be skipped. I'm too afraid to open questionable emails, so I'll probably never take a sponsorship, but I did sign up for Amazon affiliates since I'm always showing so many different products that we use. I'm gonna start leaving links for the stuff that I show in the description of the video for anyone who wants to check them out. I figured if we earn a commission from anything, we can put it towards more fun cat supplies for the shelter. It's a good thing these scrubs were cheap. I'm expecting them to fully unravel from all the washing. You want to run the longest cycle possible, and if you can, wash them twice. It's easier to mechanically remove spores than to actually kill them. Water temperature won't make much of a difference, and the sanitizer is just a general precaution that I take with all of my laundry. From what I've read, ringworm stops being contagious when the spots start shrinking. When I tell you I have been walking on sunshine the past few days after watching Spoingus' spots shrink down and his hair growing back in, after patting myself on the back for what a good job I had done of keeping the situation under control, I discovered the unthinkable. The Humane Society got a physical building recently, and they were having an opening day adoption event. We were planning to take Echo, so I wanted to put a revolution on her so she wouldn't bring any fleas home. But when I was holding her in place, I noticed her ear had a very familiar crusty-looking ridge along the edge of it. It was so well camouflaged in there that I almost couldn't even see it. I was horrified. I immediately isolated her and went into frantic panic cleaning mode is the best way I can describe it. Unfortunately, my dedicated isolation space is being occupied by the boys, so the best I can do is cage her and obsessively clean everything. A few days later, a tiny spot popped up on her forehead, so that's a bit more difficult to treat. I'm putting the product on a little eyelash wand that I bought from the dollar store and applying it like that to keep it out of her eye. I've discovered she hates the mousse more than the actual baths. I think the smell bothers her. She seems to wince at it like it's something downright offensive. I have to apply this mousse to her in her cage so she doesn't climb the walls and get away from me. She's like a tiny Tasmanian devil. She's gotten really good at shredding all my gloves. I run through like 5 pairs just trying to saturate her fully. I'm also using the Animax ointment topically on her spots to help them heal faster and fight off the fungus. Apparently kittens are more susceptible to ringworm, but I'm still at a complete loss as to how this even happened. It goes to show that even under the best conditions, things can still happen. Had I not taken all these precautions, I'm certain every single cat we care for would have been infected by now. I'm trying not to count my chickens before they hatch this time, but so far it's just her and Spoingus that have had it. Wish us luck. When I talk about running a shelter out of pocket, I don't think people really grasp what that entails. It's not just about paying for supplies and vet care or a building that's equipped to house them. I have a super supportive family, so I can always ask for an extra hand when needed, and I have an amazing community of people I can call in for help when times get tough. But when it all boils down, I'm only one person, running the entire show. I have no staff. It means that all of the work that gets done falls on me. All the content that gets made, that falls on me. All the community outreach, that's on me too. Fundraising, you guessed it, all me. It's essentially consumed my entire existence. My whole life is just cats all the way down. I'm often mistaken for an entire team by people who don't really know how all this operates. It's honestly really flattering, but it's an enormous amount of pressure that isn't going to be most people's cup of tea. I think it's important to acknowledge how incredibly privileged I am to be able to do all this, and that privilege isn't guaranteed to last forever. Being able-bodied is a temporary state. Being financially stable enough to dump oodles and oodles of cash into the most unprofitable thing I've ever done in my life, in this economy, almost certainly a temporary state. Like everyone, I too wish more people did this work, but if you ever wondered why they don't or thought it was easier than it actually is, now you know. This is a tiny fragment of what it looks like behind the scenes. Because we operate at such a small scale, I have it fairly easy compared to other shelters. These cages are pretty big, almost as big as I am, so they can be difficult to maneuver around in tight spaces like a bathroom. Luckily, it comes apart into more manageable pieces that I can drag around and fit into this tub. You can let it drip dry, but drying it off with paper towels can help aid in further spore removal. Taking out the trash bag full of spent supplies at the end of the day makes me feel so wasteful. The mountain of paper towels alone is a little sickening. I think the next thing I'll buy is a new UV sterilizer cabinet. The kittens broke my last one, but it made sterilizing a lot of our stuff much less wasteful. When I got my first one, I wanted to test it out and see if it actually worked, so I coughed on a petri dish and ran it through. Checked back a few days later and the agar was still pristine. If you ever wondered why I use a million of those little glass bowls to feed everyone with, they're non-porous and they sterilize really well in one of those. So it's kind of just an old habit. Long before I could afford to do all this, leaving food out for the strays was the most I could really manage, and even that was hard sometimes. Bowl sharing is one of the easiest ways for diseases to spread, so keeping them clean is crucial, especially when you can't afford a bunch of vet bills. Shinobu and Toofus decided to assist me in the assembly process. Obviously, Shinobu had to check out the structural integrity and make sure it was up to code for baby Echo before I could finish putting it together. Shinobu and Toofus both surprisingly love being in a cage as long as the door isn't shut behind them. I think it makes them feel safe and protected from the outside world. She's been making near constant messes in the cage with the regular litter, so I'm gonna try some paper litter and see how that goes. I know you can get ringworm from the dirt, so I'm guessing cat litter simulates that pretty well, and removing it could probably be beneficial to preventing the spread. Echo is currently available for adoption from the Aldrine Humane Society here in Missouri. She is FIV positive, she's been spayed and vaccinated, and her adoption fee is only $30. I'll leave a link to her adoption application in a pinned comment if anyone's interested. It looks like she'll be moving to her next stop in the near future either way. They have some other kittens that another facility is going to take for them, so if she's still unadopted by the 27th of September, she'll be going along with them. I don't have the time to find her a home on my own. We were in the middle of renovations on the shelter, and I didn't even have a public adoption process in place yet when I took her on. Because I wasn't responsible for facilitating the adoption, it made it much more viable for me to accept her as a foster rather than a standard intake. Fostering is such a great option if you want to help make a difference but can't make the commitment to a permanent pet. I really wish more people would give it a try before adopting pets of their own. I think we would have a lot less abandoned animals on our hands. If you find yourself with an itchy jock, or just a questionable red mark, you can use some of this over-the-counter antifungal cream. I'm not sure if it's a flea bite from one of the strays or the beginning of ringworm, so I'm just going to treat it out of an abundance of caution since they both look about the same on me. I've always wondered if I'm allergic to flea bites. That's actually what I thought it was the time I got ringworm. I was so confused when it kept expanding. I had the thought, did that flea give me ringworm? So I googled ringworm, and that's when it clicked that it was likely never even a flea bite in the first place. I felt so dumb.